Hey, Daily Dose, this is Pastor Larry here with Bonus Monday. I look back at something from last weekend's message, and we took a look at the different kind of protection Jesus prayed we'd have, protection from the evil one, and the different kind of difference that he prayed we would have, a fancy word called sanctification. And we are different when we obey Scripture, and we receive that protection spiritually when we obey what God has called us to do. And in that, I mentioned the first king of Israel, King Saul. And you might want to read later this week 1 Samuel chapter 15. You know, it's a story of Saul being given very, very clear instructions when he went to battle against God's enemies. And what he did was he obeyed most of those instructions. And when Samuel shows up and says, why do I hear some of the animals still alive when I told you to destroy everything? And why is the king over here still alive? And all these different things. He had such great excuses. And then when those didn't work, he had great excuses in terms of blaming someone else, which is so true to our nature, is it not? And one of the things we've always got to understand is those excuses make so much sense to you and me. They've always made sense to me when I have an excuse of why I did something. I'm standing before the Lord even. It's like I got great excuses. The problem is they work for me, but they don't work for him. Here's what Samuel said. Does the Lord delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices, all your religious activity, as much as simply obeying the Lord? To obey is better than sacrifice. To obey is better than going to church. To obey is better than writing a check. To obey is better than going to your life group. To obey is better than serving on the weekend of service or finding your own thing you go out there and do every week. You see, the area of disobedience ends up spoiling all of the beauty. It's kind of like you've got something beautifully cleaned up or whatever. Maybe the carpets were just cleaned in your house or whatever. And then one of the kids walks through the house with muddy shoes. Well, in terms of the whole house and all the carpet was cleaned, it's just this little tiny area, maybe about, 2 or 3 square feet that's full of mud. But guess what? The whole thing's dirty. And that's how the mostly obeying works with the Lord. Mostly forgiving, mostly using our possessions and our money for the kingdom, mostly returning good for evil, mostly fill in the blank. Jesus prayed we'd have that protection. We do unless we get out from under it. And Jesus prayed we'd be a different kind of different that would make him look good and draw people to him. And it'll happen if we run the plays he sends in. And we don't mostly do what he says on any particular issue. We do what he says. I was taught early on, here's how it works. When God says jump, ask how high on the way up. It's a great way to live. I always want to know, well, how high? And then, well, let me think about whether I want to jump that high. Let me think about where I'm coming down. How high on the way up? You'll be glad you did.